let's talk about this bed and breakfast that you have here. The name of the home.
The name of the home is Collina Plantation Inn.
Okay, and where does that come from?
Collina was the name came from Judge Stamps, who was the original owner, and Collina stands for hill in Spanish.
Okay, and we are on a hill.
You are on a hill. You're on what was originally 145 acres of the plantation.
If people thought Mississippi didn't have hills, they need to come to Port Gibson.
Absolutely. There's tons of them, and bayous and what have you.
And I am so amazed at how they could fight the Civil War with all of these hills around here. And really, you are on, I don't know, is this about the highest hill we see?
I think it's the highest hill in downtown Port Gibson area.
Mm-hmm. Let us talk about the home. This, as you talked about Judge Stamps, he was a real judge.
Yes, he was a real judge, lawyer. He was a landowner. He had this 145 acres. He is actually a businessman who started up Judge Stamps Row, as it's known, in downtown Port Gibson. So there's still about, I think, 3 or 4 buildings that are still standing in Port Gibson that he had put up. He had his law practice down there. He was also, like I said, a plantation owner. Over time, he ended up building Bowling Green Plantation, which I understand was like 3,000 acres, and he had quite a support staff for that acreage.
Mm-hmm. And now we have now this is owned by your son, yes. Scott.
Yes.
Okay, and it has been turned into a B&B.
It is a B&B, and the way he wanted to set it up is he wanted to be comfortable. He has some of the original antiques here. He has some period furniture, but he also has some furniture that is from the 1920s and what have you. So when people come, he wants them to be able to sit down, be comfortable, and not have to worry about stiff backs on chairs and what have you, like right. A lot of the antique furniture has. Right. And a lot of the antique furniture is shorter.
I guess we
People
should.
were shorter back then.
They were shorter. You're right, and I guess it's very important to point out that if this had been turned into a period home for touring, it would look a whole lot different. But with a B&B, it is more. You can be more comfortable.
He wanted to be very comfortable. In fact, it was just about 2 weeks ago he had a gentleman from St. Paul, Minnesota, and a gentleman from Washington, D.C. And in his parlor here, there are 2 guitars and a piano, and they were musical, so they were out there strumming on the guitar and playing the piano. And then in what was traditionally the library is a pool table, and so he wanted people to be able to play pool and have fun. Mm-hmm. Also, on the side of the buildings here, there's the original croquet court and what's it called? Bocce ball?
Bocce ball?
And so he does have bocce ball and a croquet set that the croquet set's from London, so people are more than welcome to play croquet if they would so desire.
I think it's very important to point out that a B&B is an experience. And this one is no exception. It is if you're coming in at 6 in the afternoon, you want to leave by 4 in the morning, go to a motel or a hotel. The B&B is designed for relaxation as well as a place to stay.
Yes, and especially in a historical home, most people this day and age through research really prefer king-size beds and what have you. So that does become somewhat of a problem if somebody wants to experience a teaster bed, which is quite common down here. So Scott chose to do reproductions, not teaster beds, but reproductions as far as period furniture, but in king size to make it more comfortable for people. That's also to attract the older and the younger generation. The younger generation really favors the king-size bed type of situation.
When you pull these sheets back, don't be surprised. It looks like there's 8 mattresses there. That is a very thick mattress.
Yeah. Again, it was for comfort, and he wanted people to enjoy the stay, have the comfort. He also had, through people that have stayed here, he's asked for feedback, and people would love to have easy chairs, so that's why the room you're in has two easy chairs. They're not really period, but they're similar to the time frame. And so all the modern conveniences are in the room, but he's tried to maintain the integrity of the house and what have you through that, and offer those conveniences to people, but yet not make it obvious when you first walk into the room.
We are in the dining room.
Yes, you're in the dining room that is original to the house, which had been built in 1833. And then the house has two additions on it, which were built in 1880. And that's because the gentleman that had the house in 1880 had 4 children. And so basically the way it was originally built, it had 1 bedroom. And so you're not going to get a man and a wife and 4 children in 1 bedroom. Right. Although I'm sure they would have done it if they had to back then. Right. But,
And your window treatments are unique as well.
All the window treatments here are supposed to be period window treatments of the time. Actually, the previous owner, Scott, actually had those made, and she was quite a, I'm not sure if it's an appropriate word, but seamstress, and did a beautiful job with them.
And I guess Scott tries to stay in the period as much as possible without giving up the comfort.
That's exactly right, and that's so important, especially for people. Again, through research, he's learned that people really would love to have the comfort, but the ambiance of this place is the home, and being back in the period, and so you're again sitting on 8.5 of the original 145 acres that Judge Stamps had. What's neat about this home is it has a circular a driveway in front. It's probably about a mile long altogether, but it was a circular drive that he had recently restored at the beginning of this year, but it originally was for carriages. And of course, back then carriages were very difficult to back up. So you need to have a one-way type of curb. And also in the front, there's original paved brick sidewalk going up to the front galley. They call them galleys, not porches here in the South, we found out. And also there was the step is still there that was for the women as they got off the carriages, although it's hard to see it now because there was another step put in so it'd make it easier for people coming up the road to get out of their cars and get up.
I understand.
But otherwise, it used to be about a 2-foot step.
What is nice about the B&B area, if I can call it that,
yes,
is the fact that it is on the main level. You're not going to have to walk up flights of stairs.
Everything here is on one level, and every room, the 2 rooms that are available right now, have their own exterior entrances onto the original L-shaped galley in the back.
Do you expect to expand into more rooms? Or?
My son is actually talking about taking the building that's right behind the house, which is built on top of where the original dependency was. A dependency would have been like the kitchen, the laundry, and what have you, that supported the house back in the 1833 period. Right. But anyway, the building there is now built on that original footprint, and he would like to finish that off and make it another guest room with a bathroom.
You probably could use an additional room.
I think he could. Again, this has been open for about 6 months now, and he just got his website up and running. So the advertisement and what have you is now evolving, and of course he wants to expand that so more and more people can hear about the place, and also make sure that it's a destination that people know is available between Natchez and Vicksburg, as they're on the trace as an example. There's so many historic places around the home here and in Port Gibson that it would be, this is a perfect spot for people. It's a central destination of those various areas. What's really unique about Collina is it's in Port Gibson, but yet it's about a quarter of a mile right up Greenwood Street. And so you take a circular drive, which is the old restored carriage drive, up to Collina. And so it's secluded, but yet it's in town, and it's quiet up here. You're right next to a horse pasture. There's a couple horses out there as you come up the driveway. It's really fun seeing them. You might be welcomed with a herd of deer. It's not uncommon to see like 20 of them coming up the driveway. At night you need to be careful. But anyways, you get up here and it is just so wonderful from the standpoint of the wildlife you see, the birds you hear. It's very secluded and the solitude is just beautiful. So at night it's very quiet. You just hear nature. So it's a wonderful place to stay at.